What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the weekend, there was a pretty cool video released that showed the internals of the new PlayStation 5 Revision, the one that weighs 300 grams less than the original run of the system, and now we know why it weighs 300 grams less and has the internet a bit concerned, and we're going to go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Halo Infinite and a very weird decision that's been made here when it comes to progression on the multiplayer side, and it has longtime Halo fans a bit frustrated. And we're also going to talk about Digimon Survive. We have an update for it in the form of a rating, which means we could actually hear about a release date here pretty soon. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Death Stranding. Now, Death Stranding released to a ton of controversy, but it found its way into the Game of the Year discussion as a nominee and eventually sold over 5 million units. And now we're kind of thinking, would Kojima do another game in the series? Well, according to Norman Reedus, they may be in discussion of that now. We can head over here. This according to Push Square, saying Reedus seemed thrilled at the prospect. I think we're doing a second Death Stranding. He's quoted as saying, the game is in negotiations right now, so yay. Now, this is from IGN Brazil, by the way, who cites a scribe from Adoro Cinema as its source. There's no video clip of Norman Reedus actually saying this, so take that way you will there. And I'm looking at this thinking, okay, would we get a Death Stranding 2, or could Norman Reedus maybe be hearing about the discussion that Kojima is apparently having with Microsoft around some other cloud game? It's hard to say here because there were talks that Sony was struggling to understand even what Death Stranding was as Kojima was trying to explain it to them. And that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, who can really blame them there? So I'm curious if Sony would be willing to foot the bill for a Death Stranding 2. I guess we'll find out at some point if they're in negotiations now, though. It'll probably be a while. Also, we had talked earlier this year about a really cool fan project that got a demo for Prime 2D. Now, this is Metroid Prime, kind of putting the 2D perspective similar to Super Metroid or Metroid Fusion. Well, turns out Nintendo came in, realized everyone was having too much fun, and they had to shut it all down. This was a message that was posted up on Reddit, just kind of updating fans around this project, where they say, hello, dedicated fans, this is the announcement you have been dreading. We have been asked by a certain games-related company to discontinue work on Prime 2D in its current form. We have removed the demo download and soundtrack MP3 download, and we are currently in dialogue with that company to determine how best to proceed for both parties. So first of all, the internet doesn't forget. You can find the demo online. It's been archived. It's very easy to download and check out yourself. And looking at this, they made the right call by announcing it after they released the demo, really, or at least getting the demo out there before Nintendo showed up. So at least their work is out there and you can check it out. And a lot of times that can at least work to get them jobs in gaming for development as you kind of show what you're able to do with your talents, and people sometimes come in and say, hey, can you help us develop a game? That's how we got Sonic Mania. So I guess you never know, even with this project. Really looking at it, they could technically change out some of the assets and settings and I guess turn it into its other game. It's gotten enough publicity now where it would probably even sell all right. So I guess we'll see if anything comes of this when it comes to maybe a hiring or just a different looking game that still plays kind of the same. Oh, and I talked previously in Newswave about Bravely Default 2 sales and how we didn't really have any updates around it. We didn't know how many copies had sold. Well, it looks like we did get an update ahead of its PC release from Square. We can see this over on mynintendonews.com, saying thanks to a recent report from developer Square Enix, they have provided a little more information on the game's sales. Square Enix said the game has sold about 950,000 copies on the Nintendo Switch. That's pretty good for Bravely Default. That's faster than we've seen with any of the other games in the series, and most likely by now, since it dropped to $30 on Amazon, which I have a link down below, you can check that out, it started to climb the sales charts on Amazon, so by the time it hits PC, most likely it'll have reached that 1 million mark overall, and then of course they'll get more sales there, and most likely this will end up being the best-selling Bravely Default game, like in the series, and that's good for the series going forward as it will give Square a reason to make, I guess, a Bravely Default 3. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the PlayStation 5 Revision. Now, this was a video that was posted up by Austin Evans over the weekend showing the internals of this newer PlayStation 5 Revision, and he was even able to find what was 300 grams lighter in this newer system. Now, first thing he did was take a look at the back of the PS5 when it was on playing Astrobot and just checking out the overall exhaust temperature, basically the air coming out of the back of the system, found that the newer system, while it was a little quieter, was producing more heat out of the back of it. And I've told you guys before, that doesn't necessarily mean that the internals are at risk if it's a bit hotter ejecting air out of the back, but it was a bit more concerning when he took it apart, because then you could see side by side the different heat sinks, and yeah, you can see it's quite a bit smaller. There's less heatsink essentially in this newer PlayStation 5 revision. There's also a lot less copper you can see, where it looks like they've moved mostly to aluminum. And overall, looking at this, I see cost savings, and Sony had mentioned that they were looking to cut the cost down with the PS5 so that they could produce more of them and even become profitable faster. In fact, that's something they had mentioned, that they're already profitable with the PS5. And looking at this picture here with the heatsink, it makes sense, because that to me was probably one of the most expensive parts when it came to the system, as it was described ahead of its reveal, that the overall cooling was more expensive than anticipated. Another difference that was noted was the fan. However, there have been two different fans kind of making the rounds with PS5s. You don't know which one you get until you pop the side off and take a look, but for the most part, one has like shorter fins, the other one has longer fins going all the way to the center. And Austin did note that the newer PS5 was quieter, and that would make sense considering it has the fan that has longer blades and probably wouldn't have to spin as fast to move the same amount or even more air through the system. Now, overall, is this an issue? Like, should you be concerned now about buying this PS5? I'm gonna say no, but I do believe we need more information around this. We've seen what like Gamers Nexus did, where they had thermal probes all over this thing. I had temperature probes kind of attached to a couple different places too. And my biggest concern had nothing really to do with the APU itself, where we had the heatsink on top. It actually had to do with the other side where the RAM is. And unfortunately, Austin didn't check that out. That's a spot I would like to see if there's been improvement made, because to be honest, I almost think they over-engineered one side of it and kind of neglected the other when it comes to the RAM that was getting extremely hot compared to other parts of the board. So really, if they had figured that side out and taken a little bit away from the APU, it probably would have been an all right trade-off. However, you have to look at this and say, wow, you're just getting less heatsink for the same amount of money, and that's correct. Again, I don't think that this thing is gonna like melt or anything like that. The temperature difference from what was measured on the outside is, I mean, negligible at best. It's like 3 degrees Celsius or 9 degrees Fahrenheit, and I don't think it's enough to matter in the long run. Like, I don't think this PS5 is gonna break down faster than the original PS5 or anything like that. But it does kind of give us an idea as to how Sony is approaching this, and that they are trying to save money on the PS5 early, even if that means cutting down on something that seems vital to the device, and that being the heatsink. Remember though, Sony does have firmware updates and different things they can push to play around with the fan speed inside of it, and they've already kind of done that. So I feel like they're gonna monitor this whole thing, which I'm sure this has been through tons of stress testing from their own engineers to make sure, but we've seen these manufacturers mess up in the past with these consoles, so we'll just have to keep an eye on this one. I mean, the most impressive part about this video is that there were two PS5s in the same shot at the same time. I thought that's only something that Sony could pull off at this point. Next up, let's talk about Halo Infinite. We have a release date for it. It's December 8th, and a lot of people are looking forward to trying out more of the multiplayer as we head towards that release date in different flights. We've already had one where we got to fight a bunch of bots and about 30 minutes of PvP. However, we did have a bit of a look at the progression system, which seemed mostly to be challenges. That was a little weird to me, because usually in Master Chief Collection, you would finish up a match and you'd get an experience bar filling up, but it was flights and all this, and they were still tinkering with many things, we'll say, during that time. However, we do have a message here from the 343 community manager. We can see this here. This from John saying, playing and winning matches will be challenges, which will help players progress through the battle pass. Even though this means no per match XP at launch, you're still always progressing through challenges, and therefore the battle pass will update the blog to clarify. So why are longtime Halo fans frustrated by this? Even technically new Halo fans? Well, what we typically see here with a challenge is like get 3 headshots with a sniper or something there, right? Or get 5 kills with a needler. Well, maybe you don't want to use the needler, but you want to progress. Normally, you would just have to win the match. You'd be like, all right, as long as I go through this match, win it, I'll get a bonus for experience for winning. Even if you lose, you still get experience. Basically, just playing the game will fill up a bar, at which point you'll get currency, and then you buy different armor or colors or different ways to customize your character. The idea of potentially doing an entire match, and not getting any kind of reward for experience is strange. Because it's worked very well for the Master Chief Collection, at least I think so, kind of pulling you along just as extra perks and bonuses, nothing that is gameplay affecting, like your sniper rifle's not all of a sudden more powerful because it's like red or something, but it's strange that they would then have challenges posted for you to go do that could affect the game that you're in. Let's say you're in a capture the flag match and the person next to you has the same challenge as you do, which is you got to deliver the flag. Well, you're both going to start fighting over the flag, and I wouldn't be shocked if people start like betraying each other to get the flag to then post it. So that's the big worry now, is that these challenges could end up breaking down to where they affect the game and how you and your teammates are interacting and trying to win. Someone may be more interested in completing their challenges than actually win the match or even participating and helping out. So at this time, it's probably a good idea to give feedback to 343, because if Master Chief Collection has taught me anything with them, is that they do pay attention and they do listen. So if you don't really like the idea of challenges basically being the be-all end-all when it comes to progressing up your battle pass and in multiplayer in general, you should let them know. I think the challenges still have a place. Like, it's good to at least have them there and say, oh, you know what, I'm going into Team Slayer. This thing says, you know, get 25 kills in Slayer and you get extra experience. Great, I'll have that on top of the experience I get for winning a match. It's another thing when it all hinges around those challenges and ones like, hey, run over 5 people with a warthog. Next up, let's talk about Digimon Survive, and I can't believe it. I think this game is actually going to have some news that is meaningful. Like, I think we're going to find out about its release date here soonish, I don't know, in the coming month or two, because it's been rated. This was pointed out over on Reddit, but we can see the ratings page here. This is out of the Australia Classification Board. Digimon Survive, it's under category computer games. Great. Classification date, August 27th. It got a PG rating there, mild fantasy violence and coarse language, and there it is. I can't believe it myself. This might actually happen, because this game, it was supposed to come out in like 2019. It's been pushed. Now we're looking at like 2 years or something, and we know they've said it has to do with COVID, remote work, and just their overall development schedule being thrown completely out of whack for this. And the idea with this is just they were going to be trying to shake up the Digimon format and the formula they've been running with like Cyber Sleuth and others. And I think it was exciting to Digimon fans to hear that they were going to try something new and take a risk with the franchise. But the fact that it's gone through all of these issues still brings up a lot of concerns around how this game is going to release in the first place. Is it going to be buggy? Are there going to be problems with it? So I'm hoping that we hear about a release date here for it pretty soon. I'd like to think it could make this year. It's not going to. I mean, we're about to be in September. If they were going to announce it, they could try to play into a Nintendo Direct maybe, just to be like, hey, there's a good spot here for us to at least announce a release date or window. Even if they show up and say, hey, spring 2022, we have a rating here, that gives me a lot of hope and even a bit of confidence that it will make that date, or at least that release window. So here's hoping that Digimon Survive is coming up here pretty soon. It's good to see an actual, like, tangible update for the game after how many delays it's been put through. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Naughty Dog and a big multiplayer game that they appear to be hiring for right now. We can head over to Twitter. This from Naughty Dog Jobs, saying Naughty Dog is hiring across multiple disciplines for the studio's first standalone multiplayer game. Visit naughtydog.com/careers to learn more. There you go. You can apply to be a game designer, or lighting and visual effects, programming, quality assurance, UI. I mean, looking at this, it's basically a soft announcement that, hey, we're working on a big standalone multiplayer game. I'm wondering what this is exactly, how they're going to approach this. Is this the next big Factions, right? Is this Factions 2 and they've just broken it off completely from Last of Us Part 2? Or could this be something completely different? Could they be kind of wandering more into the idea of I don't want to say just a big Battle Royale style game, but something smaller, maybe more down-to-earth and gritty for Last of Us Part 2 gameplay with like 12 or 24 different people, as it was also described as being like a cinematic PvP kind of experience. I don't know if that means like cutscenes between players or scripted events, but I am curious what kind of multiplayer experience that we would see Naughty Dog kind of approach here after posting up what basically looks like they would be doing something with Factions. So Factions 2, or factions could still be attached to that Last of Us remake that's been rumored and, I mean, almost confirmed at this point by several sources to line up next to the Last of Us series. And the other aspect to look at is, will this be a $70 game, or are they going to go the live service free-to-play route, as Sony has described to investors as something they will be exploring, as well as multi-platform launches. So this won't be Last of Us Part 2. It'll be, I guess, using the same engine and same ideas around the gameplay in a multiplayer setting, but could they take that and say, you know what, we're going to try this live service on PlayStation 5, and we're going to try it on PC day one? That's the biggest question I have right now around this project. It's from Naughty Dog. It appears like it could be something factions related. Will they go the route of $70? Will it be free to play? Would it be a $40 release? And would it be on other platforms? That's the big thing now. So we'll see what happens with this one, but if they're hiring, it probably will be a little while before we hear about it. And before we go to the comment of the day, or Taylor, the poll I posted up yesterday, where I asked, Digimon or Pokemon? And I mean, I expected this. 83% of people said Pokemon. Hey, 17% said Digimon. That's not bad. And back in the day, both shows were on TV. You had Pokemon and Digimon. You had cards for both. And games, yes, but the Digimon games weren't as good as the Pokemon games. I think we all know that. However, there was still a bit of a battle there going on. I mean, you look at Digimon, it's a bit more mature, I would say, with kind of the cartoon that they had versus Pokemon. But I did like the designs for Digimon at times more. And I mean, the Digimon would get stronger through Digivolving, and similar to what we have with Pokemon. I was curious to see how big the split would be in Pokemon's favor. 17% for Digimon is about expected. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Luther, saying, it's a shame anything limited edition for gaming has become unavailable and scalped mere seconds after being purchasable. Would have loved to have the Halo Infinite Series X edition. I'm wondering if anyone else gets this feeling, because I read this comment, I thought about it, I said, you know, I saw that Halo Series X system. I wasn't gonna get it because I already have a Series X, but like in my mind even the Switch OLED, I see it pop up and I was like, oh, that looks great. And then I immediately go, oh no, can I get one? Like, I know we had that thought back in the day for certain systems, but it was always, you know what, if I get to the store in time and I pre-order, I should be able to get one. That wouldn't be a problem. But now it's like, good luck online with all of these bots. And it's an unfortunate situation to be in. And I'm hoping here, I don't know, at some point we start seeing PS5 and Xbox Series X systems make their way back into stores. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the PlayStation 5 Revision. 300 grams lighter, and a lot of that has to do with chunks of the heatsink being removed. Let me know if that concerns you going forward. And then what about Halo Infinite multiplayer and the progression seemingly linked to challenges? And what about Digimon Survive? Do you think we're gonna get a release date for it here pretty soon? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.